Okay, time for the, I don't want to say post-mortem, because it's just the season-ending wrap-up, an assessment of Lower Decks as it stands right now. To kick it off, a little something I wrote to Rob Burnett, and he did read on the show. This is a couple years ago, back when Lower Decks was still fairly new, and people were still trying to get used to the idea of a animated sitcom Star Trek. And Rob Burnett was taking great offense at the idea that the Star Trek was the best, and so I would, I'll cover that. But let's just do what I wrote here. Just a couple years ago, a few years ago. Actually, maybe probably 4 years ago. Okay. I think most of us are in agreement that both Discovery and Picard are hot garbage inside a raging dumpster fire, and Strange New Worlds is looking to be another disaster in the making. This is before season 3, clearly, of Picard. Lower Decks, however, doesn't belong in the same category as those other abominations. To begin with, let me restate my Trekkie credentials for the jury. I was 2.5 years old when Star Trek premiered on NBC, and reportedly, little toddler me watched the show on the Peacock Network alongside my father. As such, I have no moment of first discovery of this thing called Star Trek. It's always been a part of my life. When we bought my first Enterprise model in 1972 or so, there wasn't a what's that moment. I already knew what she was and wanted her. I already knew that the animated series show wasn't the original. And in grade school, I became aware of the larger Star Trek fandom that was out there and started writing letters to the Star Trek Well Committee and occasionally to Paramount themselves. I am presently assisting Beadzo Trimble in assembling a new and likely final update to the Star Trek Concordance. In short, I will put up my Trekkie bona fides against anyone. And as far as the Concordance go, that is on indefinite hold because Kurtzman and his crew, and this is in Beadzo's words, do not like sharing credit or royalties. And so it's not going anywhere, at least not professionally. I'm still tinkering here and there. I've got a basic skeleton. What form the book will take, but, and I'll dig up bits in here and there. We'll see the light of day one day. But for now, it's there. Okay. Back to this. So it is with a lifetime of study and affection for the original series and its offshoots that I say, without hesitation, that Discovery, I'll take a cue from Stuart Foley at Trek Yards, and I refuse to call it Star Trek Discovery because it is definitely not a part of the Star Trek universe, and Picard, they clearly attach themselves to Discovery, so same thing, no Star Trek Picard. I think it was maybe season 3. With their wanton disregard for established canon and the fans who follow canon, they are most definitely not Star Trek. At best, they're alternate versions of Star Trek, or to use current parlance, they are not canon. It is with equal conviction, and admittedly purely fanboy authority, that I declare Lower Decks is canon. It's just Star Trek is seen from a different angle than we're used to, hence the apparent discrepancy in people's minds. A different part of the elephant, so to speak. I'll deal with the show itself. But first off, what really hurts Lower Decks at this point in the timeline is it's being associated, incorrectly I think, with the aforementioned dumpster fires. After those first two disasters, the disgruntled fan base was in no mood for a sitcom. So regardless of the quality, it was going to be slammed by the more vocal elements. It was going to be slammed by the more vocal elements of the fandom menace. The situation reminds one of Picard's line from The Wounded. I think when one has been angry for a very long time, one gets used to it. It becomes comfortable, like old leather, and finally becomes so familiar that one can't ever remember feeling any other way. I think that my daring to stand up to Doomcock during the Inquisition, when he was doing the show with Gary and Nerdrotic, when they were roasting Lower Decks on a spit, has gotten a few folks back off a bit in their criticism of the show. But that's likely my own ego. Just the same, the level of hatred for the show seems to have leveled off a tad. And my subs finally got over 1,300, and stayed there, so. And again, even Doomcock said it's not that bad. Okay, but they're still just taking offense to the fact that it's an animated sitcom cartoon. But I managed to back them off of the thing of like, okay, maybe it's not that, not as bad as they were saying. They're calling it the worst thing ever. Okay. And it has gotten a very vocal segment of old-time fandom behind it. So, okay, probably the biggest help Paramount could give to Lower Decks, albeit unlikely at this stage, is to produce a serious, dramatic, and properly canon Star Trek show set on the Enterprise E or the Titan or some other ship to serve as a backdrop for Lower Decks. And again, I think that's what Star Trek Legacy is going to be when it finally happens. And again, when. The support is definitely there. They'd be idiots not to follow up on it. As it stands, Lower Decks is the sole representation of canonical Star Trek. It's like F Troop being the only Western, or McHale's Navy, or Hogan's Hero being the only World War II shows. Of course it'll come off as insulting. With the effective backdrops of being Discovery and Picard, it only gets worse. So the two big things that need to be done for Lower Decks, on the part of the audience, stop associating with Kurtzman Trek, because it ain't. And on the studio's part, get a serious Star Trek show in the air in the same era, preferably with absolutely no involvement whatsoever from Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout. So best case scenario, that's at least a couple years away. And we're there now. Discovery is on its last contractually obligated season, and then it's gone. Strange New Worlds, one, may be a victim of the strikes, because they haven't even started writing this thing yet. They're still working. They may be writing some, because the writer's strike... The writer's strike is over, but the actors are still on strike. So no work has begun yet on Strange New Worlds, and it may fall the axe. Same thing with the other ones. Academy, no one asked for Academy. And it's like, the only bright spot on that is Tawny Newsom's going to be in the writer's room. But other than that, I have no confidence whatsoever this show's going to be worth a crap. And Section 31, it was going to be a series, but got reduced down to a one-off movie. A large part thanks to Michelle Yeoh getting that Oscar, and you can't afford her for a series. And for some reason, she liked the character. I don't know if she's saying it. But that may also fall to the axe because, again, these strikes have consequences. And not just, people have to move on. And if the resources are no longer there, guess what? It ain't happening. And it's all on paper now. So, and very few times you get a contract that benefits the other side and it doesn't benefit the studio. The studio's always got it out. All right, and back to this. As for the show itself, let's first determine the criteria for what qualifies Lower Decks as canon, while the others don't. Does it respect canon? Absolutely. This is highlighted by the often derided cavalcade of references. They clearly respect canon and are shouting from the rooftops how much they respect canon. And again, looking through the extras on the Lower Decks Blu-rays. When Mike McMahon set this out, he said we're going to do a proper Star Trek show. It's going to fit in with canon. It's going to have jokes and but it's going to be respectful of canon. It's going to be a mainline Star Trek show. It's not a takeoff. It's not a parody. It is a Star Trek show. That's what they're set out for. Let's see. Does it fit in the era of Star Trek which it's set? Sure. It's showing it's a part of Starfleet that we haven't seen until now. So there's a getting to know you period, but it doesn't contradict anything we knew going in and even reinforces in places. In the end, it's a welcome addition to the established canon. Again, we're seeing, I describe it as the Merchant Marine section. I mean, granted, Merchant Marines would, in real life, the analogies only go so far. So, it's an analogy. But this is the support staff, okay? These are the ones that do the grunt work, this is a second contact. They come in, set up, communications relays, work up the travel guides, make sure their names are spelled right, that sort of thing. Their job is to deliver pizzas and mail, okay, and take out the garbage. The glory goes to the ships like Enterprise and Titan. They're the ones making the first contact. These are the guys coming behind. Okay, you ordered such and such. It's not the glamour, detail. And as such, you're not necessarily going to get the best and the best of the best. Okay, that's one thing. Frankly, it's very simplistic looking at that. Okay. To be in Starfleet, not if you're working on a California class to delivering pizzas. They're not going to you're not going to ask for the same people doing that as you would for as you were trying to on the Enterprise making first contact with God knows what. Okay. So yeah, I'm getting to the point here. The key thing to remember in all this ain't the Enterprise. The reason we watched that ship and all the other Enterprises is this was the most important ship in the fleet doing the most important stuff. That's why we were watching them, not some boring support ship at the bottom rungs of Starfleet delivering pizzas, like the Cerritos. Like many fans and wannabe creators, I've had my own ideas regarding flipping that narrative on its head, i.e. we've seen the best ship in the fleet, and the most crucial station in the Federation, and the lone ship flung halfway across the galaxy. How about we tag along with the worst ship in the fleet for a while? If there's a best ship, by definition, there's got to be a worst, right? What kind of people man those low-level support ships that don't explore uncharted space and make first contact, where they don't necessarily have to present themselves as humanity's finest? People are people, so at that rung of the ladder, yeah, folks are going to goof off a bit more. But what of the Federation and Starfleet overall? Does Lower Decks portray them in any way close to the dystopian manner we see in Discovery and Picard? No, it's the same Starfleet and the same Federation in the previous canonical Star Trek. Everyone is fed, clothed, well-educated, provided for, and we're just seeing it from the ground level, not from the bridge of the Federation flagship. If anything, Lower Decks could be seen to make Starfleet look a bit better. Even for a colossal screw-up like Mariner, there's a place for you in Starfleet. You don't have to be a James Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard to make it in Starfleet. You can be a Beckett Mariner or Brad Boimler and still have a life. In fact, there's a whole nother division of Starfleet for regular Joes. As for those incessant references, with these other two productions, it only shows somebody can do a search on Google or Memory Alpha or read an episode synopsis on Netflix. How do you explain Picard? They based an entire season on Measure of a Man, yet clearly never bothered to actually watch Measure of a Man. Star Trek is like a foreign language, and those of us who are native speakers can tell when someone's cribbing from a Berlitz book. Mike McMahon, on the other hand, along with his writing team, are native speakers. But thanks to that burning bridge in the background that represents the current state of fan relations, they feel they have to use a little bit more of the dictionary than usual to win back all us disaffected hardcore fans who were just waiting for our turn to vent our spleens over the next serving of slop from Kurtzman and his merry band of morons. In summation, I offer the following. Stop lumping Lower Decks in with that Kurtzman crap. It might take a while to get the foul taste of Discovery and Picard out of your collective mouths, but if you can manage that, it'll be easier to appreciate Lower Decks. Judge it as a comedic counterpoint to First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis, DS9, and the rest of the next gen setting. In this context, Discovery and Picard never happened. Note that they even showed Romulus alive and well. Comparisons to Rick and Morty are also off target. Rick and Morty is more surreal. This is more of a Venture Brothers take on, against Star Trek with like Johnny Quest. Get take on Johnny Quest. Of course, that's my opinion. I could be wrong. Live long and whatever floats your boat. Bob Littlepage, a.k.a. Captain Robert April, YouTube's resident Star Trek curmudgeon. And yes, I still stand by that. But, again, we've now had a few years in on this. And in that time, we have had character development on every character on the ship, on this ship. Even conspiracy theory guy Steve Levy, Mr. Wolf 359 was an inside job. Picard's a hologram. Q doesn't exist. It's like even he got a moment a couple weeks ago. And Mariner's one-time girlfriend Jennifer, the Andorian, even she got some. They do a lot of work. We know more about the background characters on the Cerritos than we know about some of the main characters on Discovery. Trying to class it up a bit. Still grape juice though. The wine is waiting for that special moment. And again, and it's not a group of incompetent slackers. When the chips are down, they have been shown to really pull their stuff and be the best of the best. Okay, when they have to be. Like they pulled off some amazing things with that ship. And I'm not talking, and last week with, small potatoes what they've done previously. I mean, because it's a support, one of the reasons why the name is on the back of the hull is because they're spending a lot of time towing other ships, and that's what they're going to see, That's also, kind of the idea of it being kind of a tramp stamp. But that's, this ship is not just thrown here, oh, that looks cool. It's like, no, there's some thought and design into the design of the Cerritos. That massive warp core is going to do stuff like we saw this past week, when them towing that gigantic Orion battleship. And again, when that one ship, I think the Archimedes, Captain Gomez was trying, they were tumbling in, and they probably set a Starfleet record, stripping the outer hull of the ship off, because that was what attracting these, whatever mineral, so they could go in there with really just a space frame and inner hull, and everyone in, in environmental suits, and tractor this ship out of danger. And they, again, that sort of thing. That is, that's 200 IQ thinking right there. The fact they come up with that and pull it off. And then they have done some pretty remarkable things, and all the crew, and Mariner especially, because he's your primary character. They've really got a lot of development gone on there, and really gone in deep in there. It's like, why is she such a screw up? You're talking about, she's one of her academy classmates. We thought you were going to be the first one to be captain, and she's still kicking around as an ensign. And going into that, and she's talking about she's been on 5 ships. The rank has gone up and down. And we finally get the answer. So yeah, she's seriously suffering some major PTSD. Starting with their best buddy Cedo getting killed in Next Gen, and then the Dominion War coming on. It's like, that's it. I'm out. No, I don't want to, take your rank and shove it. I'm not going to be the one to send my friends off to die, And again, we get them the best of what Starfleet is all about. We're supposed to be finding, figuring out the mysteries of the universe, not going out to wage war. Like I said, the last 2 episodes have been the best defense I've seen of what Starfleet's all about. And demonstrates to me at least that, McMahon and his crew know Star Trek. They are hardcore fans, and they are professionals, and they're walking a line there of, not going full on parody, but bringing a comedic take on it. But when they showed Ferenginar, yeah, that is what they. If you look at some of the background stuff, yes, Ferengi houses, they charge admission. You go to someone's house, you expect them to drop a slip of latinum in the thing there. The toilets are probably also pay toilets. Everything comes because they took the rules of acquisition, and they made it. In fact, it was a marketing ploy back in the day. They revealed that in DS9. Like, never be afraid to mislabel a product. And nothing. Yeah, it was played for last, but I was like, nope, that's consistent. That is very consistent with what we know about the Ferengi culture and what was established before. So these guys, they know how to do their homework. They know what they're looking up. It's not just finding a name to drop here and there. They find the stuff, and there probably is a memorial to the indentured. So yeah, and again, somewhere I can probably pull a clip up of Roddenberry doing a TV interview, maybe on ABC or something. Where he's talking about, not every story has to be some high moralistic sermon. You can kick back and have fun once in a while. Okay? And that's what this show is doing. This is the part where we have fun. And they're still getting some of the same moral messages coming in there. Like, I think a big example was a couple of seasons back when they came across the Ferengi, the Ferengi doing a caged hunt thing with Mugatu, and they managed to bring, and Rutherford and Boimler solved that, and the perfect thing to appeal to a Ferengi, a PowerPoint presentation of an alternate thing that will make you more profit. Instead of going there and zapping them in and putting them on a thing, no, you appeal to their sense of profit and expose this guy. He's not, what he's doing is not profitable. Make it a reserve. Make people come in and buy, and you also don't have to keep replenishing your supply. You can keep your supply of Mugatu. It's more cheaper that way. It's like, yeah, it's played for last, but they're done. But everything's done in a proper Star Trek fashion, using the rules within the universe. It's clear that they're making this show. They are fans. They love the fact that they're doing a Star Trek show, and they're gonna play with every toy they can in the toy box. Except for next year, Mike McMahon's wanting to show Enterprise some love. It's gonna be, I'm not sure how they're gonna do that. If it's gonna be a hologram or something, but we're gonna get some love for the Enterprise there, NX-01. Get that into the fold there. And again, I think when they've had a chance, the closest we got as far as referring to the crossover with Strange New Worlds was just Mariner talking to, he had that Pike thing when I was supposed to talk about. That was it. within the context of the show, no, Strange New World still has not officially happened. When we have gotten not one reference, specifically, certainly not visual, to anything within Discovery or Picard or Strange New Worlds. Whenever they go back to that time period, it's original series or animated series. Like, the last episode, that Orion ship shows up, that's right out of Pirates of Orion. When we see them, the Cerritos and the one fighting over a freighter, it's an animated series freighter. And the episode Strange Energies, when Ransom turned into a god thing, when they bring him a picture, Gary Mitchell, he's in a pilot era uniform. If we can zoom in there, the picture probably even looks like Gary Lockwood. They have done everything they can to not reference Discovery and Picard. Or Strange New Worlds. So, again, they're towing a line there. You can't bite the hand that feeds you there, and that's why I think they went along with the crossover thing. And they did it very. Everyone, they were in character, and it was clearly, even Mecha said, that Mariner came off as a lot less annoying in live action because you could see, she could express, and you could see the emotion and a little better on the human face than on the animated. Although even the animated thing, very subtle emotions there if you know what you're looking for. But it was handled, as well as they could. But it's still one-off, easily disposable. I have it just, so I could watch it. And I did a review of it, and because I use too much of the animated thing and it's like, yeah, I got dinged. So I'm not getting any money off of that one. So yes, I will still stand by it. Lower Decks is proper Star Trek. It is being written by people who, they're not in it. No, they're in it. By the fact that they got, that McMahon got the gig. He's gotten 4 seasons under his belt so far, working on a 5th. And they've got the keys of the kingdom on there, so they got access to everything anybody else would have. And they're getting the cameos that the other shows really can't. I mean, it really wasn't. Again, went until season 3 of Picard, you started getting people showing up that should be, but yeah, right now and I'm looking at season 3 of Picard as an example of the timeline trying to realign itself, and things dropping off on the wayside. So if you were to ask the characters within that season, some of the past their past recollections would not necessarily match up with what happened in season 1 and 2, because the timelines rearranged and their experiences rearranged. So, and again, it's a time travel thing. It's also a writing convenience thing. So, because I look at it more than just as a fan and a wannabe writer. I also look at it because, partially having gone through the making of Star Trek a few times, I look at it from the point of view as a producer. How do we get out of this production hole? How do we solve this for future writers coming in? It's like, don't just ignore that bit. That didn't happen. Or this is how we explain this. But it's like, if you refuse to accept the show because it's animated and a comedy, I don't know what to do for you. All I can say is try and pull that stick out of your ass, because you're probably going to rupture something at some point. And the animation style, it's not as bad as it stylistically. It looks a lot like, but it's like the animation is very fluid and very, and except for the big eyes in the face, it's actually pretty damn good. The ships are beautiful. The space scenes look right out of Next Gen. The only thing really is the character design. Otherwise, the props look perfect. The ships and everything. The planet designs look great. And yeah, I'm just waiting for them to do an original animated series crossover with Lower, and have the little gag where suddenly they're in the same style as the animated series. It's an obvious gag. Something gets laying there. Do it. Yeah. It's over with. It's done in the first second, and you roll on with the episode. It's like the Locarno looks like Tom Paris thing. You get it out early, wait, so you're done. Yeah. But that's where I stand. This is the proper Star Trek show. Get off the thing about it's Kurtzman. It's not Kurtzman. Kurtzman has no input in this show. He is not involved in the creative process whatsoever. He does not send notes over to Mike McMahon. He'll ask an occasional question. But other than that, they're left to do whatever they want. So it's only Kurtzman Trek as far as Kurtzman gets a check. That's it. He doesn't write it. He barely really produces it. It's just sent out in connection with the Secret Hideout banner because they're the ones that got the big fat contract to produce anything Star Trek. Realistically, though, if the contract were to finally expire, which is hopefully coming soon, McMahon does have his own separate deal with CBS. So we can get Kurtzman out of the way, then everything's open there, and then we could see, more Lower Decks without the Secret Hideout label attached on the end, and without his raft of executive producers getting a piece of the pie. It would just, Titmouse, whatever, and Roddenberry Entertainment and CBS. And that would probably be a help because now there's more money to spend on the episode and not sending out checks to a bunch of producers that have nothing to do with the show. But that's where I stand. So with that, I think we'll end it there and we will talk at you later.